Hi everybody, it's Jenny from the Missouri Star Quilt Company, and I'm here with Natalie, and we have a fun project for you on this Christmas Eve. And we chose this project because the block is specifically and traditionally about families.
Yep.
This is our family tree block right here, and we've made it a little bigger so it's a little doable. And I got this idea from an antique quilt that I have, and it just brings families together, and all of this to me is like my big whole family all together. I hope you're able to spend some time with your family this Christmas, and we just wanted to wish you a Merry Christmas, and we hope you enjoy today's tutorial. Hi everybody, it's Jenny from the Missouri Star Quilt Company, and you may notice that I am here today with somebody special. I'm here with Natalie, and we are going to show you a quick and easy way to make this amazing block. So this was a quilt I picked up at Dakota's museum here. She periodically gets old quilts and sells them at the museum, and I love this is the Tree of Life block, and I just loved it, and I just thought it was really amazing. And then Natalie was like, I'm pretty sure that we can recreate this and use this for inspiration for a quilt pattern to teach.
Yeah, it's a common block, like in antique quilts.
It is.
But
I love this new setting.
We came up with a super easy, quick way to do it, and
it's fun. Now, before we move on from this quilt, I would just like to point out on this quilt, we reverence these old quilts. We love them. We think they're amazing. Our quilts will outlive us by generations. But looking at old quilts is what made me realize that I was a pretty good quilter. Because let's take a look at this. How many points are missing right here? How about all of them? You know, and while the lady who made it, I'm sure, you know, she did it by hand and all that, and we revere what they do. You know, all of a sudden I was like, huh. If it was okay for them, it's okay for me. So please remember, finished is better than perfect. Do things that fill your soul, and let's just get to making things, and let's not worry about being so incredibly perfect. How many points are missing on this one? All of them. Anyway, this is what we came up with.
Oh yeah,
sure, we can.
Because there's one other piece about this that I think is super interesting. And it's
me too.
The
pattern.
Yeah.
So hold it this way.
The trees are laid out facing each other.
Yeah, they really are. Isn't that interesting?
So it's a super interesting layout.
You know, they almost look like birthday cakes on a stand to me,
or like menorahs.
Yeah, just fun little things. It is interesting to think about why they would have positioned them that way and that sort of thing. We will never know. For the maker of this is long past, but I love to use old quilts for inspiration, and this is a fun way to do it.
And that's kind of why our quilt is laid out the way it is. We decided we wanted them to face opposite directions. And, you know, so
we incorporated that
there's
part.
little bits of inspiration kind of all throughout.
And we lost a few points. Well, we're not.
No, we didn't.
We're not telling. Anyway, so let's show how we did this.
Only the ones we didn't need.
That's right. Only the points we didn't need. So this is a pretty big quilt, and it measures 88 by 88. It's a great size. And let's show how to make this block.
We used up the entire layer cake.
We did.
So if you wanted to make more blocks, you totally could. You just need a little bit more red and white. I mean, you can lay it out however you want. You can mix and match. You can have them all
We
go
actually
the same
did
direction.
several layouts. So to make the Happy Trees quilt, you're going to need one packet of 10-inch squares, and we have used Red Carpet by Wilmington Essentials. You're going to need 4 3/4 yards of a background fabric. For your outer border, you're going to need 1 1/2 yards. And for your backing, you will need 8 yards of vertical seams or 3 yards of a 108. So show us how to make this, Nat. How did you do it?
All right, so one of the first things you want to do is make all your half square triangles. So you'll gather up a white square and a red square. And we're going to make 16.
We are 16 out of 2 10-inch squares. We're going to need a squaring tool.
So you're going to draw a line horizontally and vertically, just
like this, like we've got it.
And then what you're going to do is you're going to stitch on both sides of these 2 lines and all the way around the outside edge.
Okay, let me do that. I'm pretty sure I can do that pretty fast.
Yep.
So no diagonal lines on this one, just straight up and down. And then we're going to come over here to the side. Now you might have noticed mine, oh, I thought it folded a little bit there, but it didn't. But I was going to say, don't worry about it if it does, because that's part of the part that's going to get squared. So now we are going to sew all the way around. People always say, do you sew off or do you pivot? And I'm like, it just depends what happens when I get there.
I almost always sew all the way off the edge.
Yeah.
I feel like it makes a nice square that's just really sharp.
Alrighty. There we go, girl.
So now we have the cutting, and the cutting is extra fun. You guys are gonna love this. If you wanted to, you could cut the 4 squares apart, but I'm gonna show you how to cut the whole thing all together in one piece without moving it. So you're just cutting across those 4 lines.
Vertically and horizontally.
I did this direction,
Oh, very
corner
cool.
to corner. And then I did this direction, corner to corner.
Well, Natalie, that's different than how I cut them. That's very cool.
And then I did this direction, corner to corner. And then you just go the opposite way.
Very cool.
And your entire thing is all cut up and ready to be squared.
We can always count on you to look at something with a different, come at it from a different angle.
Okay, so now these are ready to be squared to 3 inches.
Yeah, I got a little squaring tool here. You don't cut much
So-
off, do you?
Nope, it's not a lot, and if you've got a good straight line, you can just cut one side.
All right.
So
Well, I will iron
this can go
these.
pretty fast.
And I think we have a bunch cut over here already.
We do.
How many do you need for each block?
So you don't need, you need, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14 per block. So because you have 16, you'll have,
A few left over.
you'll have a couple left over, but
that
they'll
you'll
go
use them
into
on the
other
next one.
blocks.
Okay,
Right.
that makes sense.
All right, so
Right. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
it's
10,
easier for me to use this
11,
tool on the
12,
print side than the white
13.
side, because then you can see the seam.
14. Okay, well, you can stop now because I have 14
We have
here done.
14. Perfect.
Yeah, I
we'll
thought
set
I-
these aside for other blocks.
I thought I had done a bunch of those. I just wasn't sure how many I had done.
So if these are all squared, we need to make sure they're all pressed open, and then we can make this part of the block, which is another half square triangle, and we have a pieced in stem. We're going to start with our red or printed square. We're going to cut it down to 8.5 inches.
Okay.
So
set
I'm
these
going
up
to
here.
go,
I'm going to cut these little dog
Here.
ears while I'm standing here.
and we are going to end up using both pieces of these little extra pieces that we cut off. That's what makes up our stem.
Oh, perfect.
So we will cut this also in half.
And that will make 2 of
And
the
it makes
blocks.
2. So,
okay, perfect.
So, I mean, you could, match these up if you wanted to, but they don't need to be matched. Because it's a
Yeah.
tonal line, I didn't worry about any of the stuff matching up. I used
That's a
whatever
great
reds I
idea.
had in front of me. Some of them are side by side, some of them are not, but your stems and none of it has to match.
All
So
right.
I made a pile of triangles and a pile of stem pieces. And then to get these two side pieces, I took 10-inch squares.
And we have 2
and-
stacked up. You can do 1 at a time or whatever.
You can do however many you want. I cut them corner to corner, both directions. I'm going to have to scoot just a little bit close to you to get this angle.
You're fine. I was just thinking it's always so funny to watch you cut because I'm
I
left-handed.
feel the same way when I watch
so I
you
cut
cut.
them.
It's like all backwards and upside
I
down.
know, yeah.
Okay, so then to make this stem, you've got this really great piece right here, and you're gonna just line up this top with those tops.
Oh,
Make sense?
yeah. I didn't think that was where you were going at all. So that's awesome.
Totally easy.
All right.
So just stick this one here, and we use that top line as a straight guide. And then we just trim off the bottom excess.
So then what size is this strip right here?
It's whatever size is left after cutting an 8.5 inch square out of your layer cake, but it's 1.5 inches.
Pretty sure. There we go.
It's an inch and a
one
half.
more, one more.
So then this one goes on the other side.
All right.
Line up that top
And
piece.
There we go. All righty.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and press this open.
Okay.
And I usually will press to the inside because I really don't want my red to
No.
show through my white.
No, that's one of those press to the dark side
Yeah.
times.
Yep. So I'll flip it over both sides just to make sure it's going the way I want it to, but. So then, if you're worried about getting this stuff to match up, you might want to put a little finger press in here.
On this too?
And a little finger press on that, and then hit those middles, and we're just going to sew right across it. It's not going to be, like, this is obviously more white than you need, but it was easier for me to put this block together using those 10-inch pre-cut squares, because then I didn't have to think too much about that measurement. This gave me a lot of wiggle room.
I like it. Oh, now I'm going to back up a little bit because I want this seam to stay on the red. There we go. I could feel it flip when I came by, and I'm like, nope, you cannot be on the red, or you cannot be on the white.
Yep.
There we go, there's that.
All right, so now we're going to press this back. You've got most of it. We're going to go ahead and square it up.
I have a little square down here.
Perfect. And then I squared these to 8 inches. So I'm going to flip that around because this piece is typically just about the right size. I'm going to turn that so I can get to my 8. There we go. So you'll see once you take that seam, your red is right on the corner.
Oh, okay, that's perfect.
You almost never have to cut red off.
Okay.
So then the other thing you want to look at is kind of making sure that as you're eyeballing this, that you've got about the same width on either side of that line so that your stem stays in the middle. And then it's just 2 quick cuts and you're squared up. So
That
this,
is awesome.
this part is set and ready to go. So then,
That's your trunk.
yep. So then
It does look a
we're
little
gonna
bit like a
take
leaf,
our,
but I love it.
we're going to take our triangles and we're going to lay them out. One thing that's different about this, you'll notice in this top corner we have solid squares here. So I did make these blocks separately,
Oh, okay.
but
Let's
we
make a
can
few of
lay
those.
the whole thing out first
I
and
think I have some solids
and talk
over
about
here.
that. So these go
And how many of these solids then do you need
red
for
to
your?
red.
Just 2?
Yep, it's a little 4 patch in the corner.
All right, so hand me those.
Hang on just a sec. I want to.
You want to lay it out first?
Lay out the whole thing
That makes sense.
so that
That's
we
what
can
I would do
show
if I were making it, but I thought you were way ahead of me a few steps.
just
This
a
here?
little bit.
Then?
And then that goes in there. And then we have a second layer out here, and they go the same way.
Double leaves.
Yep, it's a double layer. Now, if you wanted to recreate that quilt, you could go 2 more layers if you wanted to. It'll make a more rectangular, well, no, it'll just be a much bigger square.
Yes, and also, that's what I was going to say. If you want to remake that quilt, you can make tinier.
You can square
Half-square
all of this
triangles.
down to
Yeah.
littler sizes too. You just have to make sure that these pieces match
yes.
this piece. So, 3 3-inch squares sewn together equals an 8-inch.
An 8-inch square, yeah.
And that's by every time you take a seam, you lose a 1/2 inch.
And
so that's the
honestly-
math rule for quilting. If you want to try and figure out, what's going to fit with what, it can be tricky,
Yeah.
and we get it wrong a lot, which is why we do a lot of experimenting with our
Or
designs.
cutting
'cause-
down, or squaring up.
and
you
then
know.
and then diagonal lines change
Mm-hmm.
things. So and seam allowance, if it's just a little big or a little small, can make things a
Right.
little shifty. But as a general rule, every seam you lose a 1/2 inch. So that.
Well, and honestly, when you're starting a block or making it for the first time, you really want to, I generally start a little bigger. I would be much more comfortable sewing this than, the tiny little squares. All right, so shall I make this
So
one
you
then?
can do that. Yes, that's how I did it when I put them together. I put together all of my little 4-patch corners because they were less brain work. They're super easy to put together because you're just putting the two reds to the middle.
Right.
And then your white is top and bottom.
So here, like that. And did you have a trick for how you laid out how you sewed together your other ones?
Well, these ones I just did in our normal, like,
Two, and two.
piece these two and keep them connected. So I did this as a set of 3 and this as a set of 3.
Okay.
Then I joined this to my 4-patch and this to this and these two together. So we can just do it in that order.
All right.
So that everybody can see it's not
Here's this
super
one.
complicated. It's just a little bit time consuming.
Not super complicated. Most things aren't, you know, they get a little overwhelmed looking at the picture, but mostly when you take it a seam at a time, it's just fine.
Yeah. I tried to come up with ways where I could just sew, you know, the little sets of 2 and get all those done, but I found that because some of them go on the side and some go on the top, you can get mixed up pretty easily and then it just doesn't.
Oh, and then your points are all going different directions.
Yeah.
Okay, I
Yeah.
get that.
So I found that laying out a block and sewing it in our chain piecing trick works perfectly. Doesn't.
I do love this layout too, and we laid it out quite a few ways.
There are a lot of different ways to do it.
It completely changes the look of the quilt when you change the layout.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to say is a lot of times, so you might be looking at this and thinking, well, why didn't they make all their half square triangles 2.5 inches and make this larger half square triangle 6.5? Because that's easier and more common quilt math. But in the way that we design, we often want to make the best use of the layer cake and have as little waste as possible.
That's true.
And so that is why, because I didn't need my stems to be any bigger than 1.5 inches, I just did the math in reverse for the best use of the fabric. But really, you could use yardage or layer cakes or whatever you wanted to do and make these whatever sizes were more comfortable for you.
That is 100% true.
It's just a little insight into kind of the way we think about things and how we decide what sizes things are going to end up and what pieces we're going to use for what.
All right, now these two go together. I'm going to sew this row here.
Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. That was.
And do we want to just sew this end to this one?
Yeah, do you want me to press it first?
Sure.
Okay.
Whatever you'd like.
I'll give this a
Can
quick
I sew
press.
this to this one while
yes,
you're pressing?
Yes, you
All right then.
can. You have permission.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And I'll go ahead and give you this so you can go ahead and stitch that up.
It is so nice to have an ironer. A presser.
I think it's nice to have a sewist. You're really good. All right, and here's
Is
where
this right?
here's where your points match up right here.
All of a sudden that looked wrong. You know how you do something a million times and all of a sudden you look at
Yes.
it and you're like, wait a minute?
Yep. I think we're going to be fine though. I think this one turned out very nice. It is nice to have the little pieces to keep everything square and lined up.
There we go. All righty.
Got this all pressed out and our block is finished.
That's cool.
Wanna hold
Look
that up?
at that.
They're
Not
so
cute?
cute.
We did good.
All right, so you end up getting several of these blocks, I think maybe 26 or so, I don't know.
Let's see. Let's count. 1,
Okay.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24.
24 blocks. They measure 13 inches. Yep.
It's perfect.
What do you know? So what you're going to want to do is cut some 13-inch squares to make up the negative space. Now, depending on how you put your quilt together, you may want more or less or not use them at all. That's totally up to you. But that is just
well, and that's one of the cool things
13-inch
about doing
block.
this. Once you realize your background square, you know, because in my mind it's always like how far to the edge. But if it's a square, it's just a square. So 13-inch square, you
Yep.
can put them wherever. And then these go together. You know, when you put these together in the middle, you're going to put your stems, and they literally are just sewn together block to block.
Yep.
And,
Yeah. Once you have your all your squares made, we're just sewing blocks
Right.
into rows. We did a little 2.5-inch inner border and a 5-inch outer border. We use this
And then this red is on
beautiful
the
red,
back.
and look at this
That's
quilting.
the
So
stitch pattern.
I couldn't resist because it's the tree of life. There has to be little birds in the tree.
In the leafy treetops, the birds sing good morning.
It's just a thing. It's super cute.
It's super cute. We love the little birdies.
And the other thing I would say is on a quilt like this, you might be thinking, do I quilt with red or white? I like to quilt with whatever is the majority of my background because I want
do
it to
too.
blend in. And the quilting that comes out on the darker fabrics, it doesn't show up as much. And you
Right.
can still see, like, the block will still pop out in the way that you want it to. And the stitching disappears.
Well, yeah, if on these blocks, it will disappear. If we had quilted with red thread, it would look like we drew all over this fabric. It would look like a whole different fabric out here.
Right.
And
So the benefit of that, though, if you are quilting and you really want all those cute stitches to show and you have a lot of negative space, that's a really great way. That's a time where you want to use
great.
like the fun variegated thread or the really
Right.
bright colors or whatever it is that you want to achieve.
Yep.
That's a design decision.
it is. So if you want your quilting to be the star, you know, you would use those threads. If you want your quilt to be the star, then you would let the quilting recede.
You
Yep.
blend with your background.
So what size does this quilt make?
So this quilt measures 88 by 88. It's a great big quilt.
That's
I think
a great size.
honestly, I think a little wider border and you've got a queen that would fit nicely on a bed.
Very nice. So we called it
So,
Happy Trees.
Happy trees.
We love Bob Ross too. We do.
I love that everything with him is a happy little accident.
It's a happy little
and
accident.
not a problem. Like he was
Right.
just so encouraging.
Yeah.
And that's how quilting is.
Anyway, we hope you enjoyed this tutorial on the Happy Trees quilt from the Missouri Star Quilt Company. Hi everybody, it's Jenny from the Missouri Star Quilt Company. We hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you aren't already part of the Missouri Star Quilt Company family, be sure to subscribe so you won't miss a thing. And if you click that bell, it'll notify you every time a new tutorial comes out. See you next Friday.